Hello, everybody. It's Gary Stuckey with Real Music. You can tell I'm excited to have legendary singer, songwriter, and musician Felix Cavaliere. He's back once again talking about his brand new album called Then and Now. You know him from the Rascals and the hit songs like Good Lovin' and Groovin', all those great songs. Going to talk about his career, some other things, and the new album. So here we go. Here's Felix Cavaliere.
Hello there.
Hello, Felix.
Hey man, how are you? Can
Good. You okay?
hear me? Yes.
Yes. I can hear you, see you, and everything.
Perfect. Likewise. Great. That's a good sign.
Yeah, that's always good. It's not dark and fuzzy, unless you get a close up of my beard or something. I don't
Amen.
know.
Amen.
So what's been happening? It's been a
Oh,
while.
just really getting back to work. It's been pretty interesting. That's for sure. You know.
Yeah. Um, the last time I talked to you, I think the pandemic had just got underway and all that
Yeah.
fun stuff. Aren't you glad to be on the other side of that?
Well, that's I took advantage of that time to finish an album. And so thank goodness for technology. Otherwise, I think I would have lost my mind because, as you know, everything's shut down. But we were able to finish an album. We had started it before, and we were able to finish it in our homes, which was great.
Yeah, that a lot of people did that. That's cool that you could play, a guitar and you could be in New York, the other guy could be in California, and he could
Exactly.
play the drums and it sounds like, they're in the same room.
Well,
Uh
I tell you, it's really pretty interesting. That's the then and now that I just put out, and I think plus there really was no pressure because we had a lot of time. So it came out really good.
yeah, I've been listening to it. I've been jamming.
Oh,
Well,
good,
first
yeah,
of all though, the I was looking at the cover now. There's a butterfly on the cover.
yeah, that's right.
And I was thinking about that. And so that's got to represent something. So what do you think that represents as far as you?
Well, as far as from mythology, I think it's happiness and peace and joy. You know, so I think it brings a good energy with it. A lot of people kind of smile when they see it. So uh, it just happened that we picked that out of a bunch that an artist had come up with, and people seem to like it.
Well, what I was thinking about is I was I was thinking about these monarch butterflies, the pretty yellow butterflies. They come
Yeah,
from the Northeast, then they migrate south. I said it reminded me of a certain guy that plays keyboards, uh,
yeah.
like you, that migrated from. Then you came from New York, and you're living in Nashville now,
Yes,
right?
I'm in Nashville now. Yeah, Music City.
See, you're
Yeah.
right in the middle of it all. Uh,
Well, it really is Music City. I mean, when you come down here as a musician, there's a welcome committee here. And I've said this many times. I'll just repeat myself. But when I first got here, there was a bank that people told me about. There's a bank here that's got a special division just for writers, publishers, musicians, people who are in the music industry. I said, "You're kidding." They said, "No, they've got a whole separate division." I said, "Well, we had that in New York too. It was called the Exit." Yeah.
right.
So really, I mean, seriously, it's a joke, but it's not because they really welcome you here in Nashville when you're in the music business.
Sure. It's like I think it's like the best of both worlds. Wherever you're from, you have a certain atmosphere that you grow up with. A certain musically, your style is influenced by the people you're around in New York or California. Then they come to Nashville, and it's a different world because the people are nicer. No offense everywhere else, but the South is a different, you know, area, which I'm from Alabama, So, but that's what I'm saying. But those cultures and those musical influences come together, and it's one big family in New York. It seems like. I mean, in Nashville.
Well, it
But
certainly
right,
it certainly used to be like that when I first got down here. Uh, yeah, it's really interesting. But yeah, I understand. We're right next to you, right here in Tennessee, right next to Alabama.
that's right. If I go up the interstate, I-65, I could be there
That's
in
it.
about
You got it.
4.5 hours.
Are you still in Alabama these days?
Yes, down in Bruton, home of, I always say this, home of William Lee Golden of the Oak Ridge Boys.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, sure, sure.
So
Yeah.
there we
Yeah. Well, my ex was from Alabama, and down there in Bessemer. Yeah. So we've
get.
got kind of like ties down there. But, I mean, coming from the north, the musical heritage down south here is pretty amazing. I mean, Georgia, especially, and you got James Brown, Otis Redding, Little Richard coming from the same town, Joe Tex. Then you come over here to Nashville, I mean, it's really a special place for music.
Sure. Speaking of Alabama, I was sitting there listening with my dad, which of course my dad remembers you from your days of the
Sure.
Rascals, and we were listening to the new album's great, by the way. But
Well, thank you.
we were listening to some songs now, and all of a sudden his eyes light up because he's listening to some of the covers, and there's a song called "Slip Away," the first song on the
Yeah,
album
there you
by
go.
Clarence Carter from Alabama, from Montgomery, Alabama.
There
So
you go.
so
See,
that
that's
that
that's uh, that's really nice because a lot of people know that song. You know.
and it's a great song and it fits your voice. I mean, if people didn't realize this, if they picked up this album, listen, they would swear it was something that the Rascals released back in 1966. It's so good. There ain't too many people that can do that, that
Yeah.
can record a new album and it sounds just like it did back in the day. That's just amazing to me, I think.
Well, as I say, I've been very fortunate and very blessed to keep going and keep singing and keep being on stage and keep thinking. You just got to keep alive. Especially after that pandemic. But the fellow that I produced this with is my guitar player, Mike Sievers. He's from South Carolina, and so another one of the songs that's on there, a lot of people don't know from up north. That's Searching for My Love. That was like a regional hit, but we got it up north because I used to go really out of my way to find, uh, these kind of in those days, obscure sounds. And sure enough, like there's that Southern kind of theme going through it. But the Slip Away is another great story. While I was on Atlantic Records, there was a fellow there who was working in the A&R department. Said, Felix, you got to hear this. This just came in, and it came in obviously from Alabama, and that was Slip Away.
Well, you were just mentioning the song "Searching for Love" by Bobby Moore and the Rhythm Aces. Now they were from Alabama. They were from Montgomery, Alabama.
Oh, I didn't
So
know that.
those,
I thought they were from. Interesting. Yeah.
so that's why my dad's eyes, because he heard those songs and he knew. So he
Wow.
knows all this history. I know a lot, but he's like the master.
Oh,
But
that's
he knows
cool,
all
man.
this info. But those songs, the guys from Alabama, he's telling me all this history, and I'm like, whoa, that's really interesting. But but there you go. That's why the influences of there. That's why it sounds like that Southern flavor, because that's where they were from originally. They might have moved away.
Very, very interesting. And as I say, when we first came down here, I came down here on 88, 89. And I noticed, wow, there's a lot of people I know here. A lot of people from groups and bands, that, what are you guys doing here? Wow, this is where it's at. And it's really nice to be, kind of accepted and recognized. A lot of places, they really don't like musicians around.
Yeah, right.
I
Yeah, right.
understand. Yeah, I get it.
Oh, and there's some original songs on there on the album that's really good too. Like I said, it sounds like you could have released it years ago, and you're like, they're the fresh sounds, but it's just amazingly good.
Well, thank you.
Uh,
Yeah.
the Soul Love song. How'd you come up with that song?
Well,
That's
these two fellows came down from Canada to write with me, and that's what came out, and I really like it. I mean, like I say, they're young and fresh, and basically what they did is, I've got a little studio in my house here, and they said, well, that's okay. We brought our laptop. We did that whole thing on a little laptop, you know. Wow, I mean, I said that's pretty cool. I got to learn how to do that. So fortunately, it was before, so I kind of got my chops together for the album when it became time to get locked up.
right. So how'd you go about writing some of the newer songs? I mean, how did you write those songs? Who'd you work with on the writing
Well, I
those?
worked with there's a gentleman by the name of Steve Warrender. I don't know if you're familiar with Steve, but Steve is I think he's a Kentucky guy who has written a lot for Garth Brooks, and he was a protege of Chet Atkins, you know,
Oh, yeah.
and just a wonderful guy. And we met at the Musicians Hall of Fame down here, and he said, "Come on, let's get together and write," which is kind of the way down south in Nashville that you say, "Come on, let's have dinner." No, let's get together and write. So
Right.
that's what's so cool about it. But I really, really enjoyed working with him. He's a gentleman. He's a fantastic talent. And so two songs came out of that relationship. You know, you
Also,
just meet people and write with them.
right. Uh, years ago, I'm sure you had excitement, back in the 60s when, you were younger and it was all newer to you, the excitement of recording, the excitement of performing. How is that still affecting you? Are you still as excited today to record and play as you were all those years ago?
You know, most of the people who do what we do still have that excitement. You know, it is just something that, you know, you either have it in you and you love it, or you quit, you know. And basically, you know, like for example, like Ringo's on his way down here. You know, he's going to be doing he's actually getting into this Musicians Hall of Fame, and he's going to be working at the good old famous Ryman.
Awesome.
He's been on the road as long or maybe longer than I have. He still loves it. I mean, he's still out there singing, and you know, you really have to pull him off the stage. So the answer is yes.
Yeah, well, Ringo, he's over 80 and he looks like he's like 40. I mean, does he ever age?
Well,
Ringo,
I'll tell you in a couple of days he's on his way here. Yeah, exactly.
tell him I said hello. Yeah,
I
I'm
will.
sure he'll know who I am.
Yeah.
Not uh but you know, what do you think though, today's music? Do you like today's music as compared to your, younger years? I mean,
Well,
what's
you
changed?
know, there's so much music out there now. I mean, like it's really amazingly diverse. And you know, we have like Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, all those things. That's really my outlet to the world, and it's also my incoming music inlet. Um, I've been listening to a lot of uh, music from all over the world. You know, I notice a lot of the English people, Ed Sheeran, et cetera, they spend a lot of time with African artists. And I've come across some of the real refreshing stuff that comes out of Nigeria. There's a, a, a singer by the name of Burna Boy. And I happened to tune in the other day onto Apple Music, and I saw a completely sold out Wembley Stadium concert that he did.
Wow.
But there's a lot of people that go to that concert. They knew every single word of every single song. I was really impressed with that because it shows you that music is alive and well around the globe.
Yeah. And and I think though that like a song like Soul Love or something like that, some a new song, if this was released though back in the 60s, to me it would be a number one song. It would
Well,
be it
thank
would
you.
be a hit. But by today's standards, why do you think the music industry has changed so much that they don't really focus on the older artists? They don't really push it. They don't really care.
No.
Why is that?
Well, it's not only the older artists. I mean, if you look back at history, you know, like with Picasso, you know, they didn't even want him to continue painting. And can you imagine? We'd have missed all those blue periods. And, you know, there's something about youth, which is really interesting. You know, we've got this election coming up with older people running. Something about youth. I think people feel like, well, you know, there's a future to these guys, you know, but it's just, you know, that's how the industry has changed over the years. It's really become extremely corporate. You know, I mean, there's no question about our entire world. You know, whether it be music or television or you know, it's all about corporations running the show. Whereas in the early days of rock and roll, it was kind of like in its infancy. Nobody really knew what the heck was going to happen or what was going on. We were
Right.
creating it as you went along. So it was a lot more exciting. It was a lot more open. Now it's not so open because you got the big guns coming in, and when they come in, they bring their money with them, and as long as they bring their money, the door opens up.
Right. That's true.
That's
And
how it is.
that unfortunately, uh, and I was looking at some of the older clips. I may have talked about this last time I was talking to you, but the Rascals on like Ed Sullivan, you had shows like that. They used to just say, "Hey, world, here they are," and the fans would go crazy. The world would go crazy. There aren't any shows like Ed Sullivan. There's not a show that says, "Hey, check these guys out," and it makes you or breaks you. But usually, it makes you on Ed Sullivan. And you're sitting there, you're playing, and you're having the time of your life. Why do you think there's not that aren't any of those kind of shows anymore? Why do you think that's kind of gone away from that?
Well, again, if you look at what they've done with, uh, the type of shows like The Voice and America's Got Talent, and they've turned that into a pretty prolific business. I mean, you've got all these young talents coming on there, and they're competing against one another, which I really don't like that competition part
Yeah,
of it. But I mean, they're getting all this exposure, but you've got how many of those shows? What is it? 10 of them on now, 8 of them on. So it's okay. Well, how do we figure out who we really like? Oh, I like them all. You know, it's huge nowadays. And you wonder, how somebody really makes it in these days in this business. It's very difficult.
well, it does sound like it's controlled to a degree. You're talking about the people with the money and they're like throwing it around. They can decide who's popular, who's not popular. It's not really the
Well,
fans
it's the
anymore.
same thing like this Elon Musk fellow. He comes out with a car with an automaker that actually survived. You know how many people have come out with cars over the years that just you never heard of them again because they're up against the big three,
Right,
the big five now. It's amazing how you get through. You have to have an outstanding product, evidently, or you have to have a lot of money to tell people you have an outstanding a product. And I think that, that's amazing. I mean, Tesla's right up there with the General Motors people, which is ridiculously unheard of.
right. It is crazy. I mean, there's a lot of competition, and I guess that's the same thing musically. Back in the '60s, you had all kinds of artists kind of competing. I guess not really competing, but you were out there, and you had like the Beatles and different. You had the Motown. You had all kinds of artists out there that people had to choose from. So you really had a variety, but it wasn't so controlled, like you said, as it is today. But I guess it all depends on your viewpoint on all that. I don't know.
Well,
Um,
when I first moved down here, I moved down to Franklin, you know, and my neighbor across the street was a fellow by the name of Bob Carlo. Now, I don't know if you know Bob Carlo, but he used to be a Christian singer with a group called the
yes,
Allies, and then he was a Ninja Turtle voice. Well, he wrote this song one day and he called me up, and he had this album coming out. He said, "Man, would you come over and listen to this song? Because our children used to play together." And I said, "Yeah, yeah." He says, "My wife wants me to put this on the album. I don't want to put it on the album. I think it's too personal. And can I play it for you?" Well, he started playing for me and I started to cry immediately. It's called Butterfly Kisses.
yes, that's
Well,
right.
some disc
Well,
jockey down in Florida, I think it was on Mother's Day, heard it, played it. It became a national hit. I think he sold 5 million plus albums. You just never knew in the old days if somebody was going to do that. You know,
right,
Nowadays that doesn't happen too much. It's unfortunate because the disc jockeys, they don't have that kind of freedom where they could just say, "I don't want to play this."
right.
Like down south, that's what they did. Okay. And I get into trouble because they call it payola. But today they call it advertising. Same thing.
But you're right though. It's about money. It's all controlled, and it's like, yeah, you will play these same songs.
Right.
You'll play that forever. You won't play anything new or different. Uh, but a lot of these places on social media like TikTok, anybody can be a celebrity. I mean, I'm even a celebrity on YouTube now.
There you
No,
go. See that's
I'm
why
just
I'm
saying.
here, my man. Absolutely. I love it. Yeah.
But it's just, but you have that open outlet, which is good. I appreciate it. But at the same time, it's like there's so many people that have the opportunity. That's good, but it's also bad because it just fills up the whole scene, and you can't really sort out the good from the
Well, that's
bad.
but that's how it is, I mean, it is, you know, that this is the world that the younger people have to contend with and deal with, you know, and it's not easy. I mean, there's no question about it. But there will be musical success and stars forever. I think. You know, hopefully we'll see somebody at the level of Beatles or Michael Jackson or Elvis Presley eventually. I think so. I really do.
Well, that's good. That's good hope. But will there ever be another Felix Cavaliere?
Well,
Like
I tell you, I don't know. That's a good question. I've got to take a look around and see. Yeah,
they better try real hard.
yeah.
Uh, looking back on all those successful years, are there anything? Is there anything that you look back on that you say, "I wish I could have done differently"?
Well, yeah, pretty much. We all have thoughts like that. When you have a group, uh, you want. I would really have liked the group to end a little more peacefully than it ended. You know, so whatever part I could have played to make that happen, I would have liked to have done that. But when you're young and you really don't know that much about humanity other than your family, uh, other than that, no. I mean, there's a lot of moves you can make in business that are better than others. But again, that was not my strong point was the business part. I was in the musical part. But there's always things like missed opportunities. But for the most part, we had a good time, man. We made a lot of hit records, made a lot of people happy. And look at me, I'm still out here doing it. I can't even believe that.
Right. I imagine you do sit back and go, "It's like a dream. How did all this happen?" Uh, what point do you look back though and say, at the exact moment that you realized that you were on your way, uh, to fame, so to speak? Well, what point was that exactly? Do you
Well,
remember the exact moment?
yeah, a few points. I mean, like I say, I mean, of course, the first real big indication was when Good Lovin' became a number one, which is our second single. But prior to that, you know when people really like what you do or not, because they either applaud or they leave. you know, so when you start a band like in your college years or high school years, and people want you back, you got an idea. Well, this could work. This could work. And it's kind of sad when people don't have that kind of accolade and that kind of positivity, but they keep on going and keep on going and keep on going. I mean, unfortunately, unless you can do it as a second job or as a hobby, it's pretty hard.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Um, I was looking at the list of these halls of fames that you're
Yeah,
in. There's like 20. I mean, you're like in every hall of. I think you're like the best hat hall of fame. Now you're like in
yeah,
every hall of fame. That's got to make you feel good.
yeah. It does.
You,
Yeah,
well, and sometimes, to me, that's what makes an artist. To say you're looking at artists like yourself and you're going, these guys deserve so much because you were there. You kind of started all that. And people, idolize you. They play music because of you. Do you
yeah,
ever, think about that's these halls of fames and these shows? I mean, I'm glad that they do recognize people like that. Sometimes
yeah.
they miss some people. Are there some people that you think they've overlooked
Oh,
when?
many, many, many,
Yeah,
many. Yeah, many. A lot of people that I know. And, their feelings are really hurt. Because they're not in the Hall of Fame. And they don't realize that it's well, for example, like Chubby Checker. I mean, who doesn't know Chubby Checker? Seriously.
right,
I
right.
mean, whether you like his music or not, you heard it and you played it. You probably danced to it if you were alive. You know, he's not in the Hall of Fame. There's a nomination process there, and if you don't get nominated, obviously you can't get voted in. So the nomination is very, very important, and that's done by a board that they select, and it's a little tight, you know.
Yeah.
But again, that has changed so much over the years. Now it's a television program. See, when it first started, it was not televised for many reasons. Which, if somebody wants to look up the history, there's a history to everything, including the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame that I'm most proud of is the Songwriters Hall of Fame. That's not televised, doesn't have a museum. Most people don't even know what it is. But the people who are in that are legendary as far as I'm concerned. And I'm so proud to be part of that family because you're talking about Burt Bacharach and Cal David. You're talking about, Sammy Kahn. You're talking about Irving Berlin. You're talking about top of the heap, Cole Porter.
Yeah.
And that really made a big, big impression on me. That when they asked me to be in that, and that really made my year. Let me tell
Yeah.
you.
I bet it did. That,
Yeah.
but there you go. I mean, artists like you, I mean, those songs that you've written that touched people's heart and soul. Why
Right.
do you think those songs are so just, why do you think they cut people, just to the soul?
Well,
What is it about?
when people ask you that kind of question, you got to go into like you got to really think about that, because you really don't know the answer to that. I believe, and I might as well just say my belief, all of this inspiration comes from above, comes
Amen.
right through us from the
I
maker,
agree. I
you
agree.
know. And so if people feel that maker, they don't know what it is, but they like it. So I'll say thank you and,
Um,
let it be
there you
because that's
go.
fine with me.
That's something to think about. I've talked to, when I talk to most of the people that come on the show, I usually talk about that some way or the other, though. Even John Waite admitted that, that God is the reason he created music, and we're just kind of, you know, we're just right in the middle, just in helping him out, and what a blessing though it is uh, to have that gift. Now, not just singing. No, no, you're a singer, amazing singer, songwriter, but playing the keys, man, like
Well,
you're on fire.
I
I
just let it
mean,
all come through, man. You know what I mean? I don't put any barriers up, and as long as my hands work and my feet work and my brain works, you know, everything's good. Everything's okay. As soon as it stopped working, boy,
you got to keep going. Hey,
gotta
man,
keep going.
what a blessing. I was talking to Rod Argent.
Yeah.
You've probably worked with him a few times.
I know Rod. He's a good man. Absolutely.
Same kind of guy,
Talented.
and talented, playing the keys, writing the songs, still doing it after all these years.
Yeah.
And he has he's got a lot of young people listening to him like all over the place. Do you ever find young people that are really enjoying your music and it makes you smile and go, I have reached the next generation?
Yeah. I got a couple of letters from this school in North Carolina, uh, and Virginia. Both, and it was their kind of their musical what do you call that class, and they sent me this beautiful thing. They all signed it, and they said, "Hey man, could we have something to put up on the wall?" What was it, 10th grade? I mean, that's pretty cool, man. It catches you off guard because either a professor got in there and started playing some of our music because then they're not going to listen to all these stations. I mean, really, I don't think so. So professor probably turned them on. They really liked it. Some of them got really hooked on it, passed it around. It's not easy because if you think just for a minute how long ago that was, wow, that was a long time ago.
That was
So the equivalent in my day would have been, let's see, what, Rudy Valley.
yeah,
Yeah,
that would have been.
let's
See,
go. Let's
now
go listen to some Rudy Valley.
that'd been cool too.
Yeah,
Um, that's great though. I mean, like you said, and even in the future, I think that years from now, hopefully we'll still all be around. I mean, or grandkids, and but to discover the music, and there's probably some people. That's what's good about the internet and Spotify and places like that.
Absolutely.
They discover you and they go, "Who's this Felix Cavaliere? Who are the Rascals?" And they listen to
Right.
that. They've heard it on a commercial or they
Right.
heard
They
it in a
heard
movie, and they
exactly.
go, "This guy is amazing." So they get to rediscover you right through that, and that's
Well, yeah,
great.
one of the advantages that we had basically is the generation that we came from included the phenomenon called the Beatles. I mean, the music that came out of that period uh, was fantastic, and I think that has a lot to do with it. You can't knock that music that came out of the Stones and the Beatles and the Kinks and the Spoonful and the Birds. I mean, to stay afloat in that environment, it had to be really good, and it's still around, like it's Deep Purple. I mean, all these groups, you talk about Zombies and it Rod and those guys. It's still around because it was really good music in those days.
Yeah, and I'm thankful that you know the music's still around. Y'all are still around, and you're still
Amen.
around to talk about it, right?
Amen. We're still around to
It
talk about it and do it.
and
Yeah.
play it. So, what kind of shows have you got lined up coming up soon?
Well, we're coming around the bend here in October. We're going to be, we're going to be traveling around here, going a little bit of, we're going to Massachusetts. We're going to Pittsburgh. I've got some things down in Florida. We're kind of gearing up back after that, pandemic slowed everybody down. Of course, the big festivals and everything, the people are really ready to go out and party and rock. You know, uh, we do a lot of cruises, for example.
Oh yeah.
We do this cruise called the Flower Power Cruise, which, if you haven't heard of, you should look it up. It's really a hoot, man. These
Oh,
people
cool.
come on board. They spend approximately 8 to 10 days of nothing but music and going backwards to when they were, you know, in their prime
Right.
years as far as being teenagers, and they dress
Yeah.
like it, they act like it, they go crazy, and then they go back home.
Wow. They probably don't want to go back home.
Oh, look it up, man. It's
I
sold out
will.
years in advance. As a matter of fact, it's amazing. Flower Power.
I'll check that out. Well, I appreciate you talking to me. I'm glad that you're still doing the music. You got through the pandemic. You made an awesome album, which I'm still listening to. And like I
Well,
said,
thank
man,
you.
it's really good. And it should be, this album should be on the charts. I don't know, you know, I, I don't know who to talk to or what I can do, but I sure
Well,
will
I
tell
appreciate.
people about it.
Well, tell your pop I'm glad to be on his chart.
Hey, he sure loves you. And I
Hey, God
promise you,
bless, man. Thank you,
hey,
and thank you. I appreciate you taking the time, man.
yes, sir. Thank you, Felix. You have a good day.
Take care of yourself.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to another episode, everybody. I appreciate you. What a guy, Felix Cavaliere. If you want to know more about him, check out his website, felixcavaliere.com, for more information. And until next time, everybody, keep the music real.